what's going on, man?
Hello, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Like, God's grace, man.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I just had to fix a few things there. So just to make sure everything is checking out. Good. So in order for you to see the main like YouTube screen, with the whole podcast setup, you will have to open
Okay.
up another screen like in YouTube. So you just have to go to YouTube, open it up, and you'll be able to see it from there. Unfortunately, I cannot. Um, it won't let me share the screen the way I want to because I'm the host of the show, and
Okay.
I think I have to be the producer or allow someone to be the producer to see the entire setup and not just the Riverside setup. So can you see the entire setup?
Uh, I see. Yes, yes, I see it on YouTube.
Oh, so you see? Okay, all right, cool, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let me do this here.
Whatever I see on Riverside, doesn't show the same thing on YouTube now. It seems it's a little bit small, and I'm seeing this live wallpaper at the background.
Right, right. So you can actually see that. Okay. All right, cool. All right, man. So let's get this thing on the roll. So here's what I did. I did post a link in the actual chat. So if we have anyone who wants to join us, in the conversation, they can click the link. If you are watching right now, you can see the actual Riverside link posted in the chat. So if you would like to join, we cannot have a lot of people join. I think we can only have a certain amount of people that can join at one time. But if you would like to join, make sure you send us a message in the chat first before clicking on the link. Okay, because as of right now, I have the power in my hand to admit uh, anybody into the chat. So
Nice, nice,
if
nice.
if you're out there and you're watching, um, you want to join the podcast again, uh, put it in the chat, and then we will let you come in here and we'll talk about it. It seems like
Nice, nice.
my nemesis is online now. I don't know if you joined Marlon Gaming Nation, um,
Yeah.
his live streams.
Yes, yes, yes. I do. I do sometimes.
Yeah, it seems like he's yeah, it seems like he's live right now. So I'm gonna assume a lot of the people are probably going to jump over there and
Oh,
listen to
that means
him.
the guys have all turned to him then.
Yes, yes. And you know what? I gotta give it to him though. He's been doing this thing for quite some time now, and
Yeah.
he has um, a pretty good audience that loves what he does. Even
Just
on
that,
both sides,
the-
and it's
yeah.
okay. It's okay. I'm gonna.
Since I knew him, he's kind of like a PlayStation dude, but suddenly it just became like so. It's nice. It's nice for him to balance the equation. Sometimes it helps the community. It helps us to have a mature conversation, not only on one side, but based on the broader perspective of gaming. And I think it's quite nice that he's doing that.
Oh, wow, it keeps coming in. All right. So yeah, yeah, and I sent him a. I know he's doing his thing right now. We're gonna stay on as long as we need to. I did send him a message if he wants to join. So we're gonna see
Let me come in.
if he, because he said he was gonna be off this weekend, right? He put a message out on Twitter,
Oh,
and I reached out to him yesterday to see if he would, just want to join in or whatever. But he said he was off this weekend, so I guess he couldn't help himself because let's let me send him a message real quick.
all right, all right, all right.
And I don't know how long he's gonna be on, but
Yeah.
if he wants to hop over once he's done, he can do that, and we can talk more about what's going on. But I definitely want to go ahead and get the series, started. I know we've been talking about this for quite some time, and
Yes.
I think it's best we get it started. And let me send him a message real quick. If you were at the show, all right. So I sent him a little message. So let's get this thing started, man. So if we have people come in, we have people come in. If we don't, we don't, and that's okay. I think once we get in the rhythm of things and start discussing things, hopefully we could, get more people in. I don't know if you have tweeted out the podcast as of yet. I can do that right
No,
now.
no, no. Yes, I haven't.
Okay, so let me go and tweet it right now. Okay, we're gonna do that now. All right, so I just pushed that out um, on Twitter, and I mean, if you want to type in the chat, I mean, you should be able to type in the chat as well. If anyone would like to join, just put it in the chat, and we'll make a decision to allow them to join the discussion. But we don't want to have too many people come in to overload because we have to still keep in mind, where you're located, and internet speeds and everything. So we gotta make sure that evens out. I don't think it should affect anything, but it is what it is. So we see Jose is in the building. Just
Hi,
jumped in the
Jose.
chat. Okay, all right.
Very
So
nice.
so let's talk about this, man. So right now we know we have a few elephants in the room, right? And
Yeah.
this whole news story around because right now Sony and Microsoft is in the boxing ring. Can we look at it that way? We can look at it. They're in the boxing ring right now,
Yes.
and they have people in their corner, right? So we
Yes.
don't know who's in whose corner, right? Based on what I see and what I've read, it seems like there's, you know, I don't know if it's unbiased. It may not seem unbiased to some people, but it's the responses that are coming from the regulators and also the CMA. And it's kind of confusing to me who's taking whose side on this, right? So you have Sony, what they did
Yes.
their acquisitions.
Yeah.
That's where we start, right? Sony has done its
Yeah.
acquisitions. Microsoft, brought in the big Bethesda, the ZeniMax and the crew, right? So now we're like,
Yeah.
oh, Sony's like, wait a minute, hold on now, what's going on here? And then they did a
Yes.
few acquisitions. So now we have the Activision and Blizzard story, right?
Yeah.
So the big elephant in the room here is around one video game or one game. I don't know anyone who says video games anymore, but one game, and that's
Yeah.
Call of Duty. And
Call of Duty.
what I don't understand is why, because you have two giants, right? Gaming companies that are, I mean, they have done tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff for the gaming community. You got your PlayStation, you have your Xbox. Me personally, I enjoy playing both consoles. Grew up on both consoles. I'm not a
Yeah.
fanboy, and I just love to play video games, right? But we do have people out there, or I should say gamers out there, who love a particular console, right? And
Yes.
the whole fanboy, I know I'm digressing a little bit, but I'm gonna circle back because it's a very important piece in this whole ordeal that's going on, because it's the gamers, because these companies would not exist if it wasn't for the gamers, right?
Absolutely.
we
That is
we
right.
take out our wallets, we go and say, hey man, I want to play this
Yeah.
game, so we have to purchase this game, so we know the whole ordeal around that.
Yes.
So I wanted to get your opinion on, since this whole Activision Blizzard thing started, and I mean, what did you think about it in the beginning when it was first announced to where it is now? Because from what I understand, that you are a big Xbox gamer. I don't know if you are a fanboy or not, but I know you love.
No,
I know.
I'm not. I'm not a fan, but just
Good, good.
as that, I've played on both consoles before, and I enjoyed both consoles. So I'm not that extreme, but I'm kind of like an underdog. I kind of cheer for the underdogs. That kind of why I'm a little bit astray from what is happening with the ABK acquisition, because what when I heard it, it was so massive. Like the news just blew up everywhere on social media. It was like an amazing perspective from that angle, because when it came out, it was huge, and people started talking about it, and it became more huge. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's like the importance of it from ABK moved to Call of Duty. The kind of acquisition that was supposed to happen is supposed to be from the company. Then, as it moved from ABK, then it propelled itself to Call of Duty. So now ABK is not the issue, it's Call of Duty, because of how people were, using it to put their, points across, and that kind of revenge and those kind of console warring. And I think Sony would not have raised any issue on that, but they thought maybe what is happening, we could get some sympathy votes from people on social media, because the trend was what Microsoft is doing is consolidation. They are trying to, that's what the word on the street on social media is. Microsoft is just trying to destroy gaming. They are not buying studios, but now they are buying publishers. So it kind of like, oh, so Sony, I'm Sony. So if people are showing concern on social media, then why don't we use it as an advantage on our behalf, so that whatever is happening, we will have the sympathy votes from social media to use it against Microsoft. So from that point on, I think what Sony did back then, it was a right move, but now it has turned out to be something different. So they were like, oh, if you use this, people will be on our side and say, no, what Microsoft is doing is atrocious, it's not fair. Then they carry on from that to the regulators. And some of the regulators, including Saudi Arabia, people didn't know that Saudi Arabia were the first regulators to officially affirm the ABK deal. It's not,
Right. Right.
I think Brazil is the second. People just forget about it. But that was last year. They did it last year. It's not this year. Saudi Arabia did it last year. The ending of last year. They approved it just within a short of a like few months when the deal just start growing up. So it moved to the first quarter of the month and they just kind of finalized everything. And now Brazil have also accepted the deal. And when you see their concerns, you kind of like their concerns are legitimate based on what they've seen from history. So if they feel like this particular country of ours, because if mis- correct me if I'm wrong, Sony is big in Brazil more than Xbox, I think. Sony has a lot of fan base in Brazil than Xbox.
Yeah, I would say Sony.
I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, I would say Sony has will probably have a bigger footprint than Microsoft does,
Yeah,
and Sony
yeah,
has both companies has been around for a very very long time, right? And
yeah,
with their gaming departments, it's just been one of those things. It's like they've been very competitive. I mean, they've been in the market for a very long time, and you know, and it's sad to see. Uh, it's I would say it's sad to see, but also it's nothing new, right? It's nothing new
yeah,
under the sun because these guys these two companies have been very competitive for a very long time. But it's sad to see that it comes to something like this. And from the outside looking in, I'm like, okay, as a gamer, and also you know having a business mindset. So I'm looking at it from both perspectives, right? So I'm like,
yeah,
is this such a big deal? And so you sit back and you pay attention and you're like, okay, so you're telling us, and this is Sony, right? So you're letting the gamers know that Call of Duty is one of your biggest revenue streams, or if not the biggest revenue stream.
obviously. From what is happening, obviously it is.
Exactly. So when you put it in that context, so you have to be very careful how you word things, right? So if you put it
Yeah,
in that context, it goes to question a lot of things, you know. And I'm thinking like, okay, so your first party games are they not doing it for you? Or are you using this as a strategy, right? You put out that word using it as a strategy to say, hey, you know, this is what's going to happen if Microsoft acquires Activision and Blizzard,
yeah,
right? I need Call of
yeah,
Duty. We need Call of Duty is our top revenue bringer,
yeah,
right? So I'm thinking in my
yes,
mind, the pendulum can swing both ways, right? So we don't really know the truth. We're ignorant to that unless you actually have Jim Ryan on the show and say, "Are you lying?" I mean, are you lying about? Did you
yeah,
just put that out there, know,
yeah,
in a strategic way to let the
yes,
CMA and the regulators know that, hey, if they make this move, if you guys approve this, this is what's going to happen, and it's unfair. It's unfair competition. But if you look at the history of Sony, I'm like, Sony, you guys have a lot of great, you have a lot of good studios. You have a lot of first party titles. I mean, didn't they? It's. I don't think it is what it is, right? And
Yes.
to be honest with you, in my opinion, and I said this before, right? I said this before.
Yeah.
Sony doesn't need Call of Duty to be successful.
I agree.
Sony has been successful for a long time in the gaming market.
I agree.
Okay, and the way they are fighting this, I believe that it's there's something else to it. I don't think it needs to go that far. And the responses, that I read as far as with the CMA regulator, whoever they are, right?
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute. Okay, I mean, whose side are you taking here, right? And then you have Microsoft. Microsoft responds, and I'm like, I don't know, right? I don't know if Sony gave them talking points or if they're taking Sony's side. I just don't know.
I,
But
I, I know the reason why. When the what I have searched on is that Sony has a huge market in their economy. Sony is so huge in their economy, so it's kind of like the kind of taxes that Sony pays. I'm not saying Microsoft doesn't have anything in their economy, but Sony's input in their economy is huge. Is very huge to the extent that they have many studios more than Xbox there. Their studios were usually based on the British, European based. So the kind of support that Sony gives to their economy is what made them to think that maybe from our perspective, what the fan base, because when the cry came out, people cried, the fanboys or the so-called fanboys, extreme ones were louder on social media. They thought it at that time it was making sense that Xbox, if they are not checked right, they might shrink the market base and just kind of like split the user base in the industry. So it kind of like was, oh, why don't we check in what Xbox is doing? Because people are supporting what they are, people are not supporting what they are doing. Mind you, if now everything that goes in this world is always about what trends, is if somebody accuses somebody and the person is like put on social media and is trending, nobody reads whether nobody's checking whether what they are being told is true or not. It's just like when they see the images or the article, everybody's like saying what is trending, and you just kind of moving and you also put in your like and your displeasure without
right,
putting everything in context. So for me, I see that what CMA is doing, they are kind of like protecting their territory. They are protecting what they think is based through the consumer base. The consumer base is what? Sony gamers who are more than Xbox gamers. So if they are the majority base, it also makes sense for them to go along with what is there. That is what is there. I'm not saying what they are doing is right, but they are like, this is Sony we are talking about. They have been in the market leader and they are showing concerns. The kind of concerns they are showing is what the sentiment is around social media on Twitter and everybody. And mind you, when it came in, there were some folks who were top journalists who were also showing concerns. Some were doing short videos. I don't know. We were quite busy back then, so I don't know whether you were truly following. But when I was following, I saw top journalists in the industry also showing displeasure with Microsoft buying a second publisher like ABK. So it was the mood, like the atmosphere, it was like a wind flowing, blowing, which kind of like sway people into thinking that what Microsoft was doing was bad. But I kind of like, wow, people seems to believe that Microsoft always buys studios and Sony is kind of like grow their studios organic, which is absolutely not true. Gorilla Games used to produce games for every platform. People didn't know that. They thought like Gorilla Games we were, I mean, the Horizon Forbidden West companies. Their first game was Multiplat. Back then, around 2000, the early 2000s, their games were published by another publisher who lost money when he published the game. So what did they do? They went to the first market leader, who was Sony back then. Sony was the market leader, and Sony had much money than Microsoft. So they choose Sony because at that time, Sony also never had what they wanted to bring out, which was a first person shooter game. And Sony also knew that that time Halo was also massively accepted. Halo was making waves. So it makes sense for them to accept Gorilla Games into their fold. So and Sony doesn't do straight away purchase like Microsoft does. They calculate how much talent you have in the studios, and if you are able, they work with you in partnership. But they were not a second party studio as people want us to believe. And House Marquee was not also second party studio. Neither was this other studio. I've forgotten. I also post this on my timeline. These three studios, I believe, were also multiplat. It was not organic. Sony had a base. They had money back then. They were in charge of the market leading the race, taking decision. Because when you go into it, when you are a market leader and you go into a developer and you tell the developer, I want to have this game and I'm going to help you publish this game, and I'm going to also give you the marketing skills. I'm going to also sponsor in you because we know how to market our games everywhere. And
Hmm.
you cannot blame the developer for saying that no, yeah, it's Sony. This is Sony. Sony is a big brand, so we go along with it. And Sony captures that to bring out to people to believe that Sony is growing the studios organically. It is his strategy. It is not organic. It is something that they have mastered for people to think it is organic. It is when you believe something that is put out there and you don't have your own perspective, you don't have your own thought for it. Definitely, you're going to go with what has been constructed for you. So for me, I think what the CMA is doing is based on what has been constructed by the fan base, the major fan base by Sony's end, and they went along with it. So it kind of makes sense for them to accept that and say, hold on, if the fan base is showing concerns, we have to also show concern in that department because they consider these major fan base as a consumers. That is what I think. But to me, I think it's totally wrong. And if you ask my opinion, I think the way they handle it is kind of like it's not like it sounded biased. It sounded biased because you are not supposed to show concerns based on what the trend is going for. You are supposed to look at it thoroughly and have an independent mind and say, wow, is it going to affect us or is it going to affect Sony? And either way, if it affects Sony, what sort of impact will it bring to the industry per se, with the consumer per se? That is the question they are supposed to ask themselves. it is not what suits them. If what suits you, you absolutely go elsewhere. And I don't think CMA, I mean the UK regulators, had it all. They had it all wrong, and they are supposed to know that this is a competition that have carried on for decades now. Sony has been doing it, and now Microsoft is all in gaming. Back then, they were not in gaming. They were like, this is a different company from Microsoft, so they can like get their own money and source out everything that they want to do. But Microsoft at the other end is also doing its own thing. Like if they go in and want to go and buy a certain studio, they have to come to Microsoft, put out a plan, and Microsoft will ask them, why do you need this studio? This studio, what's the purpose of buying this studio? So that kind of uh, restriction from them back in the 360 and Xbox One limited them from having many studios, many publishers in their frame, because they were like, oh, since it's not our money we don't believe in gaming to be having, we shouldn't build gaming with big investment. But this generation, they are showing massive support to Xbox. They are buying studios in billions. They never had. It was only in the beginning of Bill Gates, that was 2000, when they were trying to be passionate gamers, trying to build something that
Right,
is
right.
understandable. But from 360, from there going, they were using what Microsoft has gained as what the profit that Microsoft gained to build and buy studios. And those studios that they bought were not expensive like now. How can you buy 5 or 6 studios within a year? How can you buy 5 studios within? So it kind of like propels Sony to also go through that kind of lane. If Microsoft that Xbox has not did not buy these 5 studios, I mean Playground, Obsidian, In Exile, Ninja Theory, and the rest. If they had not bought them, it wouldn't have propelled Sony to also go in for other studios like Gorilla, like the Haven Studio
Right,
and
right.
Blue Point. They wouldn't have done it. They would have kept their strategy by keeping them as second party studios. But the moment Microsoft went in with Xbox to purchase these studios, it told Sony that no, these people are really serious. So if we kind of like are there and people are calling us to buy studios and also compete. So for them, they were like, who is close to us? Blue Point is close to us. Gorilla is close to us. So let us bring them on board officially to confirm them that they are part of the studio, so that people will be like, wow, they are also competing. But you know, it's not that Sony doesn't have money to compete. They have money, but their priorities is so many. They are into TV, they are into phones, they are into other gadgets. And when you compare that kind of business to what Microsoft is doing, they lose more profit than what Microsoft does. Microsoft is a tech, but they are all on software. Software doesn't lose much money like how Sony have to bring a phone in and they are like, how many units are we going to send and ship and all of that. Microsoft can put a software on the App Store and sell it digitally without losing any money. So Sony has money, but the kind of priority they have is making them not to be all in gaming with PlayStation. So it limits them from doing what they can do. So that is making them to be fearing what Microsoft will do in the next generation. So what will we do? What would we do? If we can compete in that manner, we need to do whatever it takes, use our uh, way of power in the places that we are well known and respected, which is the UK and the European places. So from that end, I understand what they are going through as a company, because they looking at it like this generation, they have a very good hand in this generation, but they are thinking about the next generation, the PS6 or the next Xbox. How are they going to compete? If the ABK happens now, it means the next generation they're gonna have more studios than them, and they're gonna have more talents than them. So that is their fear. So they have to use certain strategy to block it, whatever it is morally right or not. They don't care as long as they stop it. That is that is their end. So that is what I think. I don't know what you think.
I gotta say that, I agree with you on a lot of points that you made, and
Oh, all right.
it seems like you have a lot of insight on, how, this whole thing is supposed to work, and it's good to know, you can have this type of conversation around this stuff with someone who has
Yes.
that
Yeah.
keen eye, that sees it
Yeah.
for what it is, and and like I said before, you don't need a business degree to understand business, right?
Absolutely.
Because
Yes. Yes.
if you look at it like this, if we were both in the business to sell clothes, guess what? You know, I
Yeah.
have to compete with you.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
and one point that you made, right at the end there, and then I'm going to circle back, is, you know, I'll put it in this context because pretty much a lot of the businesses out there, they do unethical business practices, right?
Yes.
So they
Yes.
have their people in place that brings in all the data, or they have systems in place that brings in all that data that they need to understand the market, what's going on, understand their competitors, right? What are they doing
Yes.
differently? What do we need to do differently to stay competitive? So I need to figure
Yes.
out, how am I going to outdo PE in the fashion business, right? He just came out with a
Yes.
new dress. I'm like, oh
Trend. Yes.
snap! I'm losing my customers here. So I have to bring my people to the round table and be like, wait a minute, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
His dresses are flying off the shelf. Our
Yes.
dresses are still on the shelf, on the rack. So we got to fix the problem. What's the deal? So
Yeah.
if you look at it that way, then yes, it's definitely facts, right? Because we're competing
Yes.
against each other, so we have to figure it out. We're both bosses here in
Yes.
this spectrum, and when I make my adjustment and adapt, you're going to watch that and see that, right? Kind of contradicting
Yes.
myself on that, but you're going to see that, and you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? I see he put out a new dress, so we're gonna
Yes.
have to figure this out. So we're gonna circle back, and I want to piggyback off something that you said, earlier, right? And yes, I understand the whole nature of the beast here, and you know, do I believe the CMA, the regulators, should be neutral in this whole ordeal? Yes, they need to be following the rule book, right? Whatever the rule book that they have
Yes.
in front of them, that's the way they should be operating. They should not, and social media is can be a double-edged sword, right? It's very powerful. It's very
Yes.
powerful,
Yes. 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 Very
and
powerful.
if you're basing your decisions or your context off of what social media is putting out there, then
Yes.
you're kind of one-siding yourself, right? And that's not the
Yes.
way you should be operating, right? Because now,
Absolutely.
now that whatever you put out is being looked at, whether on
Yes.
social media platforms. So now you have people that's going to come back and be like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this how you
Yes.
guys should be responding to this? No,
Responding. Yes.
you should be looking at it. Hey, just like you had mentioned earlier, how's this going to impact the gaming industry? This acquisition,
Yes.
is it going to impact Sony in any way? It's going to impact Nintendo in any way, PC, whatever. How's this going to impact gaming as a whole? Because we have to keep in
Yes.
mind your audiences, on all sides, right?
Yeah.
Not to come out and say, okay,
Yes.
Sony did this, they made this, oh, they did that, they did it. No, 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 you shouldn't be doing that, dude. So when I read that, I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute, did somebody pick this off Wikipedia? Did they really actually come out and say this? This is no, you
It's
have
like they didn't go through anything. They just use what people were saying on social media and they just kind of use that one. Like it's like nobody's using their mind to think.
it,
I didn't understood what they did, but
exactly,
sometimes
and you did mention something. You did mention something in regard to social media too. And it's nothing new, right? So when you have a
of course,
posting that comes out, right?
yeah,
Everybody wants to. Well, there's a lot of people that wants to swarm to it, and they want to
yes,
comment. But even though some of the comments may have a valid point,
yeah,
but a lot of the comments are very ignorant because it seems like no one does research. They're ready to
yes,
respond to it, and then
yes,
and that's where you get the trending part of it. The trending part of it, I'm like,
yeah,
oh my goodness. I'm like, have you guys and gals done any research on this? What's really going on with this topic that we're talking about here? And then it muddies the water, right? It muddies
yeah,
the water and it plants seeds all over the place. And now some people are just confused. And now you have uh, you know, it gets onto YouTube now. The creators
yeah.
come out, they want to jump on the topic and like, whoa,
Topic.
let's look at this. I'm like, wait a minute, wait a
Oh,
minute, wait a minute. Let's stop and hang tight. Let's hold back for a second here. What is really going on right now in gaming? And that's what we're talking about today, the state of gaming, right? This is the first episode, and we're gonna be continuing to talk more about this. And we would like to get I'm going to take a second, if you're watching right now and if you would like to join us in this discussion. And I know this discussion has been going on for quite some time with the whole Activision Blizzard deal, what has taken place within the company. I think there was some sexual harassment, some harassment going on. The top head had, there's just a lot going on with that right now. So with Microsoft making an announcement to acquire Activision and Blizzard, it set off like a firestorm, right? All over social media,
yeah,
right? It
yeah,
just went crazy. Like,
yeah.
oh snap, here it is. Is this really gonna happen? I'm like, the same company that just acquired Bethesda and ZeniMax and some
Yeah,
others. So how does Sony
of
compete
course.
now, right? So how does Sony respond to
Yes.
this? And this is the beauty of social media. Even though it's a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
but it's the beauty of social media now because now everybody wants to weigh in, right? Every gamer wants to
Yeah.
weigh in. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're a fanboy or not. Everybody wants to
No.
weigh in. And then you got the news, the media. They wants to weigh in. Like, hey, and now you have
Yeah.
everything in context and it's so different. But it always end up at that one point, right? It's either
Yeah.
Microsoft or Sony, right?
Yes.
What's really going on
Yes.
here? And trust me, when I say this, is you made some very very good, valid points there. And if you can have people sit down and have conversations like that, so that they can get a better understanding of
Understanding. Yeah.
what's really going on here, then we can all come together and say, hey, okay, all right, and see in that one light. Like, come on, man, really? Really, this is
Yes,
now. I'm gonna say it's competition. It's 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 it's
absolutely.
it's just
And
competition.
and CMA is kind of like defining or forging what competition really means from
Yes.
what they are putting out there. It's like, what is competition? Oh, competition is Microsoft is trying to outsmart the market leader, and we kind of like, whoa, it's not, that is not competition. But what is competition if you don't know? And I quite remember 2017. Before 2017, Sony was the one who brought in PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now was ahead of its time. Microsoft never had that. So when Microsoft wanted to compete in that regard, what did they do? Oh, we don't have games. Sony has a lot of games than us. So what do you do? Sony doesn't have PC there, so let's add PC day one. Uh, our consoles games day one. That is how competition is. You know what your weakness is. You admit it, you upgrade to it. Sony never had such thing on PlayStation Now. So it was like, oh, it's not going to work. How is it going to work? People started coming in 2017. Xbox. How can you bring a game that is day one and expect to make money? Xbox is like, we know that it is not now, it is about the future. It is how you bring people, they bring people on board to accept the norm. They are creating an atmosphere of having it as a norm. It's easy when you bring something, you are creating something, let people adapt to it. When people begin to adapt to it, it's like you having to spend, you are born a rich boy or a rich man spending thousand a week, $1,000 a week, $1,000 a week. That is the norm life you are in. When it changes to for you to spend $100 a week, can you spend it? No, it will be difficult for you to change. So Microsoft is creating an atmosphere for you to believe that when you play day one of Xbox games, day one on PC or console, it is the right way to go. So they are creating a culture of you having to play games freely without you stressing whether you're gonna choose one or the other. And that is how Sony misjudged the branding, because they had the games. Xbox never had the games.
But okay,
So
okay,
PS now,
okay. So it's
all right.
so it here's what I shared in the very beginning, and I was very vocal about it. Right, I was
Okay.
vocal on social media, and I also spoke out on it as well because it was just very simple in its time at the time, if that make
Yeah.
what I'm talking about is Game Pass. Okay, and when Game Pass first came out, I was thinking Netflix. I was thinking any other subscription service, right?
Yes.
So me
Yes.
having the business mindset, I always ask questions, right? Okay, because if I'm sitting at the round table and I'm having a discussion with my people, I have to make sure that I have the right people in place, right? The right
Yeah.
people that know their stuff, right? So
Yes.
the question that I asked, and I was very vocal about, was how is Game Pass going to sustain itself, right? There's no way
Yeah.
it's not going to be able to sustain itself. Now this is before day and date. They have
Yes.
not mentioned day and date at this time. So I'm thinking like
Yes.
now it was right after, but I was like they're not going to be able to sustain this for a very long time in the long term. So what are they planning? Something came to mind was like they have to be planning something different here
Something. Yeah.
because you're not going to be able to compete with Sony at this level, right?
Level at
And
all.
But when they mentioned day and date, I was like, whoa, that's
Yeah,
something interesting. I'm like, Sony, you're not and I mentioned this. I don't know if you remember. I mentioned this. I said because there are people that are very vocal on social media, right? Especially Twitter.
yeah,
They say
yes,
Sony is copying Microsoft. Microsoft is copying Sony, right?
yeah. I do
That,
remember. I do remember.
yeah, and that's what some
Yeah,
businesses do. We have a tendency
yeah.
to copy each other, right?
Of
Because
course.
because if we can't think outside of that box to bring whatever inside that box and make it work, I'm gonna copy
Yes.
you. I'm gonna say, hey, I like the dress that that PE just made. It's flying off the shelf.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to
Yes.
do something similar to that, right? I gotta compete.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The point that what I'm trying to say is I would have done the same. I would have done, and we're gonna get to that part about
It's understandable. Yeah.
bringing Game Pass on PlayStation, whatever. We'll talk about that. But we're going to try to wrap this thing up and get to some other pieces of news as well.
All right.
And I would have copied that whole Game Pass concept. Okay? Because Sony had to know right then and there. They cannot sit here and tell me they did not know right then and there when they first heard day and date, right? From $1 trillion company, right? That has money
Yeah.
to whoop, 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 whoop.
To try around. Yeah.
Exactly. So they are having conversations with these publishers, these developers. They have to be and
Yeah.
say, hey, we want your game on Game Pass day one, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if I'm the developer or the publisher, I'm like, okay, well, let me talk to my people. Let me get my lawyers in here, get my people in here, because we got to make money. I got to pay my people. They spent years in making this game, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we have to pay our people. So here's my number. Here's my number. If you agree to this number here, and it will all set here so that we're not losing out, hey, I'll say PE, you can have it. Day and date.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
You agree to that number? Bet. I'm going to sign here. You're going to sign there. Done.
Yeah.
Because I have to make sure that my people are taken care of for the entire lifetime of this game or whatever
Yeah.
that comes to it. And that's the whole beauty of negotiating and sitting down and reading contracts and et cetera, making adjustments where they need to be made. You get what I'm saying here, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna double back, and it's just amazing, how transparent this whole thing has become now.
Yeah.
And people can actually look at it for what it is. And I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe this is happening here. And so with games now day and date on Game Pass, I'm like, Sony, what are you going to do? Because if you're Xbox and I'm Sony, I'm like, oh geez, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. How am I gonna compete with this? And I'm looking at the price of Sony games, right? So we both know that I really haven't dived deep into the Xbox side of it, but we know that Sony is selling the console as they have to be selling it at a loss. Come on, you come on,
Yes.
think about this. I know this. I know the software that these studios are making costs millions of dollars, right? It costs a lot of money. Let's put it like that. It costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you're pricing games at $70. We knew it was coming. I mean, I knew it was coming. I'm like, man, these consoles, they are becoming more and more like PCs. They have to compete some way somehow with PC. PC gaming has been at the top for quite some time, but these gaming consoles are very, very. I can't think of the word to it, but
very, very expensive and absolute demanding too.
Yes, yes, and it's like $70 for this game. $70 for a game, but you get nothing added to it. There's nothing else. So the
That
standard
is the
version of the
concern.
game is $70. So there's no extra incentive to it. So I can understand when people ask, "Would you pay $70 for this game?" and with nothing added to it? I'm like, what? Why is it $70? What is Sony doing?
Yeah,
Right? Are they trying to compensate? Or are they trying to make up for the loss some way somehow? Sometimes you have to sit at the round table and say and make some tough decisions as a business,
yeah,
right? You have to make
yes,
very tough decisions and say, hey, here's our losses. That's why you have a CFO, right? You
yeah,
have your CFO, you
yeah,
sit down, you have that
yeah,
conversation, and you say, hey, this is what our numbers look like. If we do this here, we'll be able to recoup, right? We'll be able to
yeah,
recoup some money here, blah blah
yes.
blah. But we have to make some tough decisions. We can't do this, and this. Think about this. Why don't you notice Xbox have done some customized Xboxes, right? I've seen
Yeah,
a lot of
yes,
them.
a
Yes,
lot of it. Yeah.
but PlayStation 5 has nothing. There's no customized PlayStation 5 whatsoever,
Uh, it
right? Well,
it
well, actually, I
seems
take that back. I take
it
that
seems
back.
very
They
strange.
have the one they just came out with, the army fatigue looking one. Um, that one.
Which one?
Um, the the the
Which
the
one?
the fatigue looking one with the controller. It's like a brown, like brownish black fatigue looking. Um,
Oh, the like the camouflage colors, the
Well,
one like
well,
the
they have
army.
those. They have those as well. You know, like the black, the purple, etc. But what I'm talking about is like a custom made, like God of War.
Console with yes. I don't know whether they've done that. I
And I now
I can't remember.
I'm just making an assumption here, right? I'm just making an assumption that you know whatever loss that they have, that's on paper, they are looking at that and saying, now this is just an assumption. I have to test that assumption, right? That hey, the reason why they have not come out with a actual customized
Yeah,
PlayStation 5 because they're trying to save money in some areas. And that's
yes,
sometimes as a company you have to take a look at where you are and say, hey, where can we cut back, right?
yeah,
I can't afford to lose my employees. Sometimes businesses let off employees. And there's so many factors that come into place, the economy, et cetera, where you have to make those tough decisions as a business. So you have to ask yourself, why hasn't Sony made a customized PlayStation 5? Outside of what they currently have right now. I mean, anyone can paint their face paint.
that is strange.
It,
And the I don't know whether the faceplate that they did. I've never seen a PlayStation 5 before, but I'm hoping that one day I'm gonna have one and see how it is. But the faceplate is it looks like a carbon carbon paper kind of thing. But when you check the Xbox Series X, it's like a metal. So when you're kind of doing something like a custom made design for it, it absolutely shines. It absolutely shines on it. So I don't know if Sony is having difficulty doing something like that. I don't know. I'm just assuming, thinking that maybe it might be one of those factors because the faceplate it's kind of like they did it in regard to the game not will be able to endure much heat from the faceplate. That's why they went that from the plastic one than the one that they are using now. because the other one was like a metal plastic, if I'm mistaken. But this one, this faceplate, I don't know how what actually is it plastic? Is it plastic?
It's an actual. It could be. You can actually customize the faceplates. I'm pretty sure it's
Oh,
some type of
but the
plastic.
one I've seen being done is done through these stickers. They design
Yeah,
paper
actually,
stickers
because
and they
if
paste
you
it
look at
in.
the PlayStation 5, you have the vents pretty much around around the actual console itself. So I don't think the face plates, the heat from the actual PlayStation would be a factor as far as doing anything to the actual plate itself.
Uh,
And the actual design will be on the outside of the plate. So I think Sony would have been very.
I don't
I
know,
think they
but
would have
I
been very
guess
very
when
careful in
yeah,
creating a face plate for their console,
yes.
knowing that the heat was going to burn it up or something like
But
that. But no, it's
this
customizable, dude. The face plate is customizable.
oh, all right,
It's
all right.
just that
Yeah, I heard about it that it was like the component that they used to do the faceplate is kind of like different from the previous generation. So I'm kind of assuming. So that's why I'm stating that I don't know. I'm just assuming if
yes,
whether
yes.
it's that kind of thing. So thanks for the correction, though.
Oh no, 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 no. I didn't really.
Come, let me switch off the light. Let me switch on the light.
But if you're watching this the podcast right now, and if you want to join the conversation, just send us a request in the chat and let us know, and then we will ping you in if you would like to join us. So to wrap this up, because I know it's becoming very very exhausting. You know, with the whole Activision and Blizzard ordeal,
Yeah,
and how it's playing itself out, and I gotta say it's very 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 interesting. How the regulators are speaking on it, how the CMA is speaking on it, and then again you have a lot of people out
do you
there.
find do you find it funny that one company is not talking about it?
What which company are you talking about?
Nintendo.
Oh, Nintendo. Okay, okay. So
It's
since you
doing its own thing.
okay,
It's
since you
funny, right?
brought up Nintendo. All right, so Nintendo is a different beast. Okay, Nintendo is like the forefather of
Wow.
gaming. That
Yeah.
started it all pretty much. And one thing that I have to respect about Nintendo stays in its own lane, right? Because Nintendo is unique in its own way. It
Yeah.
has its own unique style of gaming that's appealing to its market, and and Nintendo stays there. And me personally, if I was Nintendo, I would do the same. But you do notice
Yeah.
there are some games from over on this side is moving to Nintendo,
So,
right? If you
and
think about it,
yeah.
I don't remember a lot of. Well, actually, yeah, I'm not going to get into that one. But again, Nintendo has its own unique way of doing things. So I have to tip my hat to
Yeah.
Nintendo and say, hey, keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, their numbers are astronomical. When Nintendo comes out with a Zelda game, hey, it's gonna sell, right? It's
Absolutely going to crash it. Yes.
it's Nintendo, and when you come out with, their IPs are just historic, and you know, I don't see why Nintendo would get involved. at all. They may or may not, right? They may say, hey, well, we do have, we're trying to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo, right? So let's say
Yes.
if that's part of the conversation, and they may voice their opinion, say, yeah, this may impact us, in a way. But I don't think it's gonna take any of their fan base from Nintendo, because Nintendo has its own
At
setup.
all. Not at all. Yeah.
Exactly.
Not at all. And Nintendo, you see, their games, it kind of has this kind of flavor to it that when you see it, it's like you are smelling something different with it, and you see it and you see it's unique based on the art style. It you play the games. It's like these games, they understand what gaming is. You playing the game is like you are having fun without thinking about the frame rate, the resolution, and those unnecessary things. Sometimes we put our minds to it to take our minds out of the experience. They bring that thing and make you feel like you are playing the game and having fun.
Yes.
And I used to have that when I was playing Mario and Zelda and things. I was not looking at it and looking at it and saying, "Wow, look at how." I was just immersed with the game. I was just immersed with the experience of having to play the game and feel like I'll sleep and wake up in the morning. I'll be thinking about Mario, how I didn't jump. I could have jumped this way, and that that kind of thing. It I don't know if now it's like it's losing its touch in these modern games now. The touch, like I mean, the game has turned into something like if you don't have the uh, a better frame rate, you are not having a better experience with the game.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
so
yeah, and that's something that, and I'll let you finish. Um, that's something that I want to talk about here in the next segment here. So yeah, go ahead.
all right,
Go
all right.
ahead. Go ahead. Go. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead and finish your thought.
let me think that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. So it brings a lot of point out as you stated, right? And the consent here makes it very difficult for most of us to understand how this purchase. And mind you, what Microsoft is also saying makes a lot of sense in regard. They are not into mobile gaming. And King, which is a very huge, and the most franchise in ABK is not Call of Duty that makes them a lot of money. It is Candy Crush. It is their mobile division. And people have not made any reference to it. And it's very surprising. It's like how you are talking about huge money, but the one that makes them huge money is the mobile division. And yet you are not raising. I'm just like, wow, is these people really serious? Or are they just, I don't know what is going on. The state of gaming, as you have said, is a lot of discussion we need to have so that people, the product is very surprising. And
It is.
I
It is.
wish people would hear our voices as we are discussing here. People will also share this video out so that it will reach those people who want to have a different perspective of what we are discussing here, so that they will also know that maybe nobody has a big head to input everything in their brain. Somebody might, everybody with his own thinking and idea. So probably this will be some who will be sharing our video out there for people to know what we are actually discussing here. So guys, whoever is watching can also share and put in his Facebook or Twitter or wherever he finds his uh, place of convenience can put our video out there for us.
Uh,
So it's really surprising how everybody has missed the target on that one and not discussing how Microsoft is also trying to come into mobile and making their games also available on mobile that they can also capture. And I think PlayStation has bought a studio on that makes mobile. I've forgotten the name of that studio. It is a mobile division. Just recently, I have to check. I've forgotten though, but they just recently bought a studio for mobile, and it is very interesting for those in the industry who are also going along with what the CMA is talking about. That the concerns the CMA is having is legitimate. And if you ask them just a simple question, how legitimate is their concern if what they put out there is not challenged? Because they are not asking, they are showing the reason why they are investigating, the reason why they are investigating, probing more about it. But the list that they listed in there doesn't even come close to something like investigating. It's just a matter of putting a concern and listing at it as a concern. You like you go to grocery in a supermarket and you are like, this toilet roll,
mm-hmm.
one is thicker and the other one is soft, and you are like, I'm the consumer, I'm having concern with this typical tea roll. You are not asking what sort of material they are using for it, but you are asking how is this one softer than the other. And asking that kind of question is not, you are not showing concern, you are not investigating, you are just showing concern to what it is, but you are actually not putting out the reason why you are having that concern.
Right.
I don't know what I'm picking. You understand what I'm saying though?
Yes, yes, I got you.
So all right. So you misplacing what you are absolutely, what your job is supposed to do. So people are confused and want an appropriate answer. And for me, how Microsoft came in and responded, I don't think it was a good idea to do that and come out and call them out and say the CMA is actually being preferential towards PlayStation, because it's kind of like you are making a wall with them. You are creating some chaos between this and you. Because you are supposed to make an environment for you not to go to court. That is essentially the point. Although you have money, but it is a global world. There are other regulators in Australia, in UK, other countries who are also tuning in, waving in and looking at it, and also hearing that this is what is going on. Microsoft is attacking regulators, and it's not going to end up well for Microsoft. To be honest, they have they have to keep their calm and put it in a mature way that will not be like attacking them directly. And if they keep doing that, I think it's not going to help them in any way. I don't know what you think about that from how they responded.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting how how they responded to that, and um, I really haven't sat down to actually analyze that response and what's going on, because I read a snippet of it, right?
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna I'm gonna digress,
All right. All right.
but we'll come
Sure.
back
Sure.
to that. And hold on for just a second.
All right. So, guys, this is our first podcast. So, if anybody is watching, you can just subscribe and like, give us a like, and put in your thoughts in the comment section and chat with us and think and help us grow this channel or podcast as we move along. So, as we are discussing, we are talking about ABK, what the state of gaming is, and what, how the industry is reacting to it. And this is the conversation we are having right now. So, whatever it is, please give us a like and subscribe.
All right, all right. We're back. We're back. All right. So,
All right.
so, um, let me ask you this question. Do you
Okay.
do you think do you think Game Pass, and we know that the actual direction, Xbox wants to go with Game Pass. They want to
Yeah.
have Game Pass on every platform as possible, whether it's TV, mobile, whatever it is, right? Do you think Game Pass, with the day and date, will be sustainable for the long term? And also, the second part of the question is, do you think Game Pass is profitable?
Yeah. I think the strategy that they are offering or going for, it is sustainable in the extent that they are expanding their market, and they are not basing it on only one platform. Because if it was on only one platform, then they are not going to sell more or have more subscribers on Game Pass, because somebody who is not interested in console might switch it on his TV, like TV, and see the app on the screen and feel like, oh, what is this app? Let me try this. And the app opens and you see a $1 a month subscription. It doesn't affect you to say, oh, $1, let me try this. And definitely, because the Game Pass is not catering only AAA titles in there, is a lot of variety games. You have all sorts of game in there. So the moment you enter and you see something that you are comfortable with, and you straight to the point and you are in it, and you are like, wow, I can try this sort of game and play it, and I'll be like, oh, wow, this game is really good. And you try another one and you feel immersed and you are like, this is what I want. Because sometimes these AAA games takes a lot of your time. But when you have this 2D, 2D, 2.5D games like that, it's like the old classic way of mechanic playing. The way you play, you just like straight away you are in the game. That these AAA titles is like the world is big and people don't have much time to be immersed with. So when you have a variety of games on Game Pass, it helps you sustain subscribers, because it's not only AAA. You have two triple, double A, whatever, single A, whatever it is. You have that kind of subscribers, and the diversity in that Game Pass helps you or helps Microsoft to keep its user base. That's how I see that. It's good because as it stands right now, because they don't have a bunch of games that, although is there, but it's not, the games that is there is not although polished. It's like the titles that you have in there. You have 360 titles, 360 titles people have played that are like that time it was like AAA titles.
Right.
The 360 Xbox One like AAA titles. So you don't have a lot of family friendly games in there like how Nintendo has. They have these family friendly games that you play along with your family, which is more fun to have. And when you play it, it's like the whole family understand that kind of game.
Right.
And if they kind of build into it for the future of it, I think if they, I think that is what they are trying to do. Though they are trying to capture everywhere because it's Game Pass, and Game Pass gives you options. As long as it gives you option, it is sustainable. And the other question of it being profitable is is I I can sit here and project that, give a projection, but I cannot because I don't have the data there to be sure, 100% sure whether it will be profitable or not. Like I can give a projection based on what I've read and seen, based on what I've researched on a little bit of it. It will be profitable if they can go across the whole continent. The whole continent. I mean, we have like 5 continents and some islands, and if they can cater through all that mass audience across the globe with that Game Pass structure, with TV going everywhere, the mobile division going everywhere, and console having its own market as well, then it can be profitable from that end. But right now, I don't think it is profitable because the
and
user base that, yeah, yes, yes,
and
yeah,
the reason why I asked that second question is because and you're absolutely right because we do not have the actual data unless Microsoft puts out that data and say, hey,
yes,
here's what we look like, from the first quarter or second quarter, et cetera, however
yeah,
they put out their numbers. And, with day and date that, Game Pass has value, right? So we can all
yeah,
put our stamp of approval on that fact. There's value there.
yeah,
However, I guess I'm looking at it in a perspective of input and output, right? So when you talk about day and date, what does that look like when you're at the negotiation table, and you're have these contracts on the table and you say, okay, so
yeah.
we're gonna pay X amount of dollars to have your game on Game Pass day and date, right? So are you bringing in enough? Because that's kind of, I look at it like this. It's like, okay, so if I'm paying for, I think it's two subscription services, right? Is it Game Pass and then Game Pass Ultimate, right?
Yes, they have it is three, I think three, but the other one is with the it is three. They have the Game Pass for console and they have Game Pass for PC.
Okay.
The Game Pass and console and Game Pass for PC has similar, the same features, but the Game Pass Ultimate adds the S Cloud and you know the free of you having to play the game with early access and the you getting what's the name, the discount. You
Discounts,
get
yes.
discount.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So I would say, these guys are smart. These guys and gals are smart. Um, they've been playing this game for a very long time. They know what's profitable. They know what's not, right? And I
Yeah.
guess what we're gonna have to do is sit back and wait and until Microsoft comes out with their, their earnings
Oh,
and et
yeah.
cetera, et cetera, and say,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
here's what Game Pass has done, since launch, right? And
Yeah.
it's doing well. And also, you have to be very, 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 very careful when you take this type of approach because you have investors involved. So you have
Yes.
to make sure that your investors, because they're going to ask questions. They're going to be like, okay, how's this going to benefit me? I have all this stake in the
Yeah.
company. I don't want to lose a dime or a penny, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
how's this going to impact, me as an investor? And so you have to make sure that you cover all avenues, especially when you bring something like this to the table. So, in my opinion, I do foresee Game Pass being profitable, but we again, like I mentioned earlier, we're just gonna have to sit back and wait and see what that looks like. On paper,
Yeah.
when Microsoft comes out and say, "Hey, here it is. This is what you guys have been asking about. Here it is. Here's the numbers, et cetera, et cetera." Game Pass is successful. We're going to continue to move forward, and we're going to evolve. You know, and that's what's going to increase the competitiveness between the two giants. Now with Sony has its PlayStation Premium Plus, and in its
Yeah.
tiers. How do you compete with that? You know, once you get the answer that you're looking for that question, like, okay, Game Pass is killing it, right? Investors are happy, gamers are happy,
Happy.
developers are happy, everybody's happy across the board. So that's it's going to be huge moving forward once we get that information, right? Now, Sony
And
is.
and yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you. Game Pass in the whole of the continent of Africa, it is only one place you have Game Pass. The whole
Where?
of the African continent is South Africa.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
South Africa, apart from South Africa, from north, east, west, and south, excluding South Africa, there's nothing like Game Pass. And South Africa don't even have the uh, Ultimate Edition. They don't have Game Pass Ultimate. It's just the console, and they are restricted in playing it on S Cloud. And sometimes I sit back and ask myself, what exactly is this company doing? Are they really serious in reaching out such people? Because it's getting like, what stops you from having Game Pass across the world? Is it the service, or is it something that is restricting you? And I come to realize that it's not that. It's the policy in which they run their their company. You know, we have a saying that when these companies they come into companies and they are like, in this country, if we come in, what is the crime rate there? What is the corruption there? What is the structure there? What is the infrastructure there? But and the the reason, the way they think, makes them delay their progression. That is my thought, because you are picking people who are asking. It's like you are taking, you've given a position to someone who has never tasted poverty before, to look after those who are in poverty, rather than taking somebody who has tasted poverty in that situation, who understand the situation in that ground. They pick someone who is rich and looking after the one who are poor. So how do you understand the market you are going in? And
Well,
Microsoft has not shown that.
I think, you know, from a business perspective, you have to look at it like, where am I going to be successful here? So I think, when they're having this conversation at the round table, like, okay, yes, we have this idea of
Yeah,
pushing Game Pass across the globe, right? To get it
yeah.
everywhere. And I don't think for a second that that's not what they're trying to do, right?
Okay.
But they have to look at it, where is it going to be successful and where is it not going to be successful, you know? And it's just like starting a business, right? So you
Yeah,
have a business like here, like smack dead in New York City. You know you're going to be successful,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
if you take your business, and nothing against Ghana, because I don't know anything about Ghana, but so I'm just going to speak in a general sense, right? And you take
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
into
Okay.
another country that's not well developed at all,
Yeah,
how are you going to be successful in introducing, a product or service into that country? And
that
you
is
do your
a good
research. You
question.
have that. I mean, all that comes into place. Everything that you just mentioned, the crime rate, um, all that, you know,
Yeah,
will help you make a decision as a business and say, okay, either I'm going to be successful or it's not going to be successful. So I'm not going to, or I'm going to introduce this product into this market, or I'm not going to do so because of these reasons. So I'm pretty sure they're sitting down and they are carefully combing through everything, saying, hey, yes, yes, PE, I want to get Game Pass to you. Trust me. Do you know how bad? Because every dollar counts to these businesses, right?
yeah.
They want to make
Yes.
every
True,
dollar
true, true, true.
that they can, and they want to give you that quality product. They want to do it.
Yeah, you speaking right now. You speaking.
It
Yeah,
is,
I like that.
and if
Yeah,
if if it's not there and the infrastructure is not there, they're gonna be like, we just can't do it right now.
yeah,
We because certain things has to be in place in order for us to be successful and to be able to provide you a quality product where you as the consumer is happy.
yeah,
So I'm thinking in that context, like, I don't think they're not I don't think they're ignoring you. It's just that they have to be conscious of, and it's, I'm going to give you an example. Harley Davidson, right? We did a oh my goodness, I had it on the tip of my tongue. I can't get it out. We did a business plan for Harley Davidson when I went to the university here. That was part of our business project. And what we was going to do was go visit Harley Davidson and present the business proposition of moving their company into an emerging economy, right? A developing country. And man, there was so much research that you had to do about the country
yeah,
before, putting it all together and be able to present it to Harley Davidson and be like, hey, because these executives, they're going to want to know how, okay, is it going to work? Am I going to be
yeah,
able to sell Harley Davidson motorcycles in this country? Am I going to be, so let's say if I have a projected number of 1,000 motorcycles that I want to sell a month,
yeah,
am I going to be able to sell
yeah.
1,000 motorcycles a month? You
Yes.
have to present that to the big boss and say, hey, here are the numbers. Here's what the country that we would like to move into. Here's everything about the country that you need. And yes, I believe that we will be successful in selling this product, 1,000 motorcycles a month in this developing country, right? But at the end of the day, they those people coming to the table, they have to make that decision. They have to make that conscious decision and say, hey, yay or nay. Like, yes, we want to, and we know that there's gamers there. There's gamers there. There's diehard gamers there, but it's just not going to work out because these things are not in place. You have to have certain
You know,
things in place.
you know what? When you stated that, you actually saying you're absolutely right. Perfect. That is the sort of like a classic way of, you know, browsing through what your risk is, how you're gonna gain ground uh, in what have you. So something came in my mind and I said, but within the Xbox who have been through that before, that lane before, mind you, they almost shut down Xbox One in their generation because funds were not coming in and Microsoft was not seeing the benefit of Xbox at that time. And it took Satya Nadella, through what I've read, I don't know whether it's true, but the fact is that states that Phil Spencer and the Bonnie Ross and a few of them went to Satya Nadella and asked him and told him, although if we gonna do something like this, that it means that we have to take the risk and go in all out. And if we go in all out, it means we are giving 100% of everything. And if it doesn't work, we all know we made the effort and it didn't work.
Oh,
You know,
right, right.
so I'm taking it from that angle. You know, we have KFC here, KFC, which is an American brand, right? We have McDonald's here, which is an American brand. You ask yourself, how did they come here? Because most people like cook in their house, in their homes, cook in their homes. They don't go buying food outside. That is the perception here. The majority of Ghanaians cook in their homes. But do you know what? The dynamics is changing. Women are going to jobs, men are also in the work. So who comes home and cook for you? Who comes home and cook for you? Because
oh,
things change. Not testing the waters. If you not testing the waters and asking questions, although the infrastructure is not good, what are the weaknesses and the strength? Definitely, they're gonna have weaknesses and strength in that country. Like a country like Egypt, and you compare a country like Nigeria or a country like Ghana, every country in Africa has its own attributes, its own thinking, its own ideas, its own culture. But people who are not familiar will always put Africa together as a one country. But Africa is a big continent with different diverse and different dialogue and different people in how they think, in how they behave. The cultures are not the same. So if you are not into it and more showing more interest in whatever you are trying to do, you're going to mix and say, why didn't I risk and do this? Why didn't I do this? I regret not taking the chance. So from my end, I'm like, okay, we don't have the infrastructures, we don't have certain things. Our institutions are not well versed, probably, in terms of handling corruption, in terms of tackling things to be, you know, in a speedy form. Like you go in, you want to register your business the way you want it to be, so fast. You want it to be quick, and you are gone. You are done with what it is there. But do you need to let it be an hindrance to the market you want to cater to? Your obstruction shouldn't be a means for you to give up entering into that market. You know, they recently ventured into the UK market. Do you know what they did? They sponsored, they are sponsoring England national team now. England national team now. They've taken that. But Sony took the whole of Europe. Look at the advantage here. Sony took the whole of Europe, sponsoring. I don't know whether you like football. I love football though. I'm a fan of football. There's a European tournament in Europe called UEFA Champions League. UEFA Champions League.
Yes.
They play, yeah, they play that tournament every single season, and they are playing it now. Sony has been sponsoring this competition for God knows how long, for decades now. And whenever they always sponsor, they always bring their console as a first marketing tool, and their TVs and their other product across Europe. And we in Africa are influenced by it because we watch football. That's the game we love. We watch the Champions League and we see this console in European competition doing the advertising, and we are kind of asking ourselves, what is this? I'm seeing something beautiful. This Sony PlayStation 3, what is it? I go into the Google browse and I found out that it is a new console that is coming out for PlayStation 3. Whilst Microsoft is only catering for United States, giving sponsorship to a certain club in MLS who is not a global influence. I'm sorry to say, I'm not disrespecting that team in the US. I'm sorry to say, I'm just assuming they give a team a sponsorship deal. It's not influenced anything in across the globe. You go to the European teams, you have Barcelona, you have Real Madrid, you have Manchester, you have every great team in the European clubs that is influenced across the globe. Asians know Real Madrid. Asians knows Asian continent or countries knows a team like Barcelona. Any African countries knows a team like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester, what have you, and they are global influence. So if Sony puts its brand in that competition, it is all over the place. It's all over the place. And Microsoft do not do that. You don't see Microsoft reaching out to prospective influences in the global platform. And for me, it's like KFC will come into a country like ours and it's making it big, not obstructing itself and saying, oh, majority of Ghanaians cook in their homes, so why should we venture itself and come into this market and open a business too? So they took the risk. They took the risk and entered into the market knowing perfectly that the market is raw and new. So if they do it well, they do it better, they're gonna capture. Everybody will know KFC. No brand is competing with them. So if they how they did it well and did it. So people now they came in, they did it. You come in there like a restaurant, you come and take your order. Now they have a drive-through. You bring in your car, you pass through, you make your order, they give it to you anywhere. You are gone. You see the progression from something to some place. How many people knew drive-through in Ghana here? They brought it. So it's like something when you're talking about let's go through drive-through and everybody is KFC. We are going. Not any other brand, not any other franchise except KFC because they are doing the drive-through. So it has captured the imagination of people here. So how will Microsoft capture the imagination of the global world whilst people are craving for it? If people are craving for it, it's not like people are not craving for it. If people are craving for it and you don't know how you're going to touch the people more, it means that in Africa, most of us love football. You can take a country like ours and sponsor our Premier League, sponsor our national team. That is most you are talking about a country there. You might go to another country. It's not football. It's like athletics. You pick a household name in that country and you sponsor that person, and that person influences the people in that country. That person is so influential, famous to the extent that when the person says, "Hey, all of you kneel down," everybody is kneeling down because that person has that kind of, you know, influence. And Microsoft is not doing that. They are taught, their actions exhibit like, oh, we are picking the qualified people with the degree, people with the certificate. And most of the time, Sony does not do that. Do you know how Max Henning got into gaming? He was not qualified to be in gaming engineering. When you read his profile, he was not even in creating consoles. But Sony gave him the opportunity because the passion that he has in him. Say, oh, let us give this guy a chance. Let us give this guy a chance. So Max Henning started developing games for through the opportunity, through the risk Sony took from in him. Do you think Microsoft will have done that? No. Microsoft went into for a qualified person for the Xbox One. The name just came. I had a name.
So what you're saying is,
So that is it.
so what you're saying is that there's market opportunities that Microsoft is not throwing their attention to. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For instance, let's take your brand like this. Your brand is only catering to the US market, right?
Right.
It's catering to the US market. Probably there's so much competition there that before you have to get in there, it will take some time to be building up your brand up there. But take it a country like in Africa, whereby people go in and they go in and purchase something that is not of quality, something that is coming out of China. And people buy it, they go in, they wash their things, and it's fading. And the cloth would fade, like you bought something with a colored, and you are using a detergent to wash your clothes, and the cloth is out of out of the place. It's not of quality. So what do? You're like, people are in demand of a quality product. So you take that kind of survey and ask yourself, people are fed up with this kind of thing. So if I come into this market and assure them that this product, when they use it with a detergent and they wash it, it's not going to fade, but they're going to have the same quality as they bought it. And if true to be told, when your product is good, it is the people who sell it for you. It is not your marketing skills, or it is the product that gives you the best market to establish yourself. So if you come into an African country, or you want to say something,
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. So when you come into a market like that, you are asking yourself, these are the weak points, these are the strengths. They are craving for something that is of quality. You ask yourself, can they afford what I'm giving them? That is the second question you ask them. Can they afford what you're giving them? I don't have the full perspective, so let me do a certain survey there. You branch in, you might have that, oh, there are a portion of people who can afford it, a portion of people who cannot afford it, but have an idea the reason why they don't want to. What will you be? Two together and bring them together. The one who don't want to afford it, I would tell him, look, man, you don't want to afford it because you don't know the value you are having. The value is that this cloth, when you buy it, you can wear it for a year. than you going to the market that you are going to buy something that is less affordable. But the moment you wear it for 1 to 2 months, the cloth, the shirt loses its value. So you go back and go and do the same thing before you reach for the whole year. You've bought more clothes with much money than the one product that I'm giving you that is of value, that is of quality, that you can wear throughout the year without you having any issue. So if you convince the person and say, wow, what you are saying is true. So if I buy something that is expensive today, I could be able to sustain me throughout the year than going to buy something that is cheaper and lose value and go back buying and buying, and at the end of the day I'm spending more than what I'm gaining. So when you go into that and you are able to ask questions and you are going to do this, you know that you are gaining less restriction in this kind of thing. You are restricting yourself from that boundaries that is stopping you asking yourself, am I going to get into this, am I going to get into that? So you take the risk and take that chance, because the moment you don't take that chance, somebody else will come along and take it. When they take it, eh, that is where you come in spending more money than you should have or spent if you have taken that chance. That is my view, though. I don't know how you think about it.
And again, I appreciate your your insight and your enthusiasm around this topic. And you know, I have to I have to look at it this way.
Okay.
You know, it's I mean, think about Microsoft right now and their success in the Asian market with the Xbox
Yeah.
series. I think the X and S, and they tried with the Xbox One, right?
Yeah.
And what comes with that is a lot of research, right? Because they haven't been successful in the Asian market with their console.
Based on the strategy they took the same strategy as what they were doing. And as I stated, every culture has its own identity. If you come in and you present something like an American culture to another culture who doesn't appreciate American culture, you're going to lose your target. They are some kind of people. I know you've been to Japan before since you went. Yeah, I know a little bit about them. A little bit. I've not been there before, but this is one of my dreams to be there though. But uh, the reason why Microsoft lacked that game wasn't because the uh, the game that they were putting in was interesting. They went in there. They didn't launch their game. That's the original Xbox. They didn't launch it exactly the same as how they launched it in US and Europe. They launched it a year back after everything has been done by every company, PlayStation, Nintendo, who are market leaders in that country. Nintendo launched its game, released its console long before X was coming into that market. And before the people knew, it was too late. And they came into the market with a bigger controller. So after they went there with a bigger controller, people started like, oh, what is happening? And the second thing is, when they went in, they didn't associate themselves with the people. They didn't associate themselves with the people. They took their own people there. You see, they took their own people. It's like you going into a culture whereby you don't associate yourself to that culture, but you expect that culture to trust what you are bringing to them. So one factor that they lost there, that they disregarded, and it is also about the console. These people they know how to manage space. They are not that they know how to manage their space. The space that they have, they manage it well. So they don't occupy so much space in their rooms and everything. So PlayStation knew that. PlayStation knew that. Nintendo knew that. Based on how they produce their console, you will see how they do it, and you're gonna know that because they know that their people don't like something of a bigger version. They are like, wow. So you GameCube is coming out with something small. PlayStation 2 is coming out with something small, and here you are with two times size of these consoles. And meanwhile, they are Nintendo and PlayStation have their market already there, and you want to compete with them. So you have to override what they are doing. Something that they are doing already, you can override with something to compete. But if you are lacking behind with that, it means that you didn't go in strategizing well, angling the objectives that you have to tackle. This is where I need to tackle. This is where I need to tackle. Because although you can strategize, it is not about strategize. It is about taking the right decisions. When you are not taking the right decision, you can strategize how you want. You can do whatever you want, the kind of strategy you want to take. But if you don't take the right decision, you're going to mix your target. And that is how they did.
Exactly.
That is how they were left behind in those period. And okay, all right, let me hear what you are saying.
Yeah, actually, I was going to, you know, say that you make a lot of great points there, and and no, and you know, and it doesn't take a genius, right, to figure
Yeah,
it
yeah,
out,
yeah. Obviously,
and
yes,
because
yes,
once, I mean, you're sitting back and you're watching, right,
yeah.
you're
It's
observing,
observing.
you know, how these companies move, and then when you are wanting to compete in a space, especially into another culture, you definitely have to do your
Yeah,
research. You
absolutely.
have to do the research, the market research. You have to see how your competitors move. Okay, how was
Yes,
Nintendo able to market into the American culture and
yes,
be successful, right? How
yes,
was Sony able to do that as well? You know, vice
yes,
versa. So, not knowing the culture and how to move into that culture to, you know, have a footprint to be competitive with your competitors, you're going to lose every time. So you definitely
yes,
have to do your research, right? And you brought up a good,
yeah,
you know, analogy with McDonald's and KFC, right? So here's what
yeah,
they did. It's like, okay, so how can we tailor to the African market, right? When they do their research, they have to find out. I can't sell just cheeseburgers and Big Macs
yeah.
over in Ghana. I have to know what type of food that they like to eat,
They like to eat.
right? And I'm going to speak a
Yeah,
little bit about Japan because even though the Western culture has moved over into Japan, but Japan
yeah,
is rooted in culture.
yes,
They like different types of food. So as a company
absolutely.
like McDonald's and KFC, you have to take a different approach. You can't go in there with this straight chicken, right?
Yeah,
Chicken and biscuits. Wait a minute.
yeah,
How can we take KFC, move it over into this culture, but provide the foods that we do have, but also
yes,
tailor it to the country. You
yes,
know, providing food that they like to eat, right? So I understand it all, right? And I believe that's what happened. That's just my opinion, my assumption on it. That Microsoft
all
went
right.
into the Asian culture and they didn't tailor to the market. They didn't tailor to what, you know. They didn't do enough research, or
Absolutely.
the
Yeah,
correct strategies were not in place to say, hey, you know,
please. Yeah,
maybe they did, and they thought they were good, But
Yes,
here's the
that's the strategy.
but
You
here's the
take a
results
strategy
of
to
that.
start.
Man, I only
Yeah.
sold 3 Xboxes. I'm not saying that's correct. And like we because we got now we have to come back to the table and say what did we do wrong?
Yeah.
What did we do right and what did we do wrong? Because now going into the Asian market, we're not competitive at all. I
Yeah.
mean, Sony is already there, right? Now you're
Yes.
trying to go against your competition. Nintendo is already there,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
trying to go against your competition. You got
Yeah.
to be ready, right? You got to be ready. So
Yeah.
going in there, you only sell like 1,000 Xboxes. I'm not saying that's the correct number versus 200,000 PlayStation 5s. Let's say if that's the number, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. That's too ambitious. Let's break it down.
Oh, it's possible. Yeah.
50,000
Because yeah.
PlayStation 5s at the time. You got to rethink your strategy. Be like, wait a minute, we didn't do something right here. So my question to you is this, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. What does South Africa has that Ghana does not have? Because if well, let me ask you this question: is Xbox bigger in South Africa than it is in Ghana?
Uh, to be honest, I'm not fully adverse with South Africa's culture, though. But what I can say is that they they have the infrastructure more than Ghana. They are a whole lot ahead in terms of infrastructure, in terms of organization. They are far ahead of Ghana. But it's not like years far ahead if we put things right in order. If we put things right in order, I think we can get something going for us. Infrastructure, organization, and the understanding, I mean, the sort of education of what they put out there, how the consumers relate. I don't know if I'm making a point here. How you educate through the media is big there. They have a whole big company in terms of that department of using the mainstream media to educate easily. They can reach far, far, far ahead. They can reach far, far ahead. And what I also see is that maybe I could be wrong though, but if in terms of people who want to play the game, if in terms of population, South Africa has a bigger population than us. So if Microsoft is looking at it and saying we are only looking at the population, in terms of population, in terms of infrastructure, we can carry these two and send Game Pass to this place for now. And the rest is like, oh, so are they are they that rich there? No. South Africa has the infrastructure. South Africa has the know-how in terms of talents. So what I think is that if you know the strength of the market you are in and you capitalize on it, it's all good. But when you are using the same format for every country, then it means that other countries will fail because South Africa might have the infrastructure, but they might not have the people who likes to play games. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I do. I
You
do.
may have you might have all sort of things going on for you, but how many people want to play Xbox in South Africa rather than a country where they are not good in infrastructure, but you have a lot of Xbox people who want to play games of Game Pass? Because maybe Xbox is not as huge in South Africa, but PlayStation is. And people consider PlayStation to be the king of gaming. But when you come to Ghana, some Game Pass is good for somebody because paying $1 for a Game Pass or paying $5 for a month for Game Pass, he likes to game. He likes to game. So if you are giving that proposition for him to consider, he'll happily grab it and say, I'm only concerned of playing games. I'm not concerned with the platform I'm playing. So if you are bringing something of value like Game Pass to me, that means we are going around 100,000 people who are restricted because of not having the money to regularly play games the way they want to play. But with Game Pass, as $1 or $5, they can play the games they want to play. But if Xbox is trying to give the same, you know, condition to every country, it is where they lose their target. It is where they lose the opportunity of entering that market.
So
So that's
so it seems like um, well, what we don't know and what we're ignorant to, shall I say, is the actual discussions that are going on at
yeah,
Microsoft and its Xbox, department, and what they are planning to do to continue to push Game Pass forward, right? And
yes,
when you think about their vision with Game Pass, that's what the hope is, right? To
yeah,
have Game Pass in your market where you are,
yeah,
into those countries where you have fans of the Xbox,
mm-hmm,
and so that they can play games, right?
yeah,
So I'm gonna leave it at this. I do believe in my hearts of hearts that that is what Microsoft is doing.
it's
Okay,
doing.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna continue to push this effort as long as they can into every market they can. I'm pretty sure they're still doing research in every which way so that they can have, what they need to know that, hey, Ghana is coming, right? So
Yeah.
hang tight, it's coming. And other
But
countries,
if they are not thinking that, they can Spencer and
right, right. So I
his
think,
audience can tune
as a
into the
business, they're gonna
show and have a little bit of tips from what we are saying right now and take it along with them, so that
absolutely,
they can support the
absolutely,
program. Yeah.
and you're already set. You're already set. So when that time comes, you're like, okay, it's game time now. So,
I'm not sad. I'm not sad. I'm not sad at all.
well, I
Uh,
said like this:
now,
you have your Xbox.
now I have it. I have it. I don't play it as I wanted to play it
Exactly. So
because
there's certain games that you want to play, and you want to be able to play it when you want to play it. And that's it, right? That's it. And you have the type of games that you like to play, and you want to buy the games that you want to buy. That's it. You want to have the freedom to do that, to be able to have that luxury just like the developing countries already have.
Yeah.
Again, we'll just have to, wait and see what Microsoft does. You know,
Sure, sure, sure.
and
Absolutely. All right.
so
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I absolutely agree on that.
all right. So here's what we're gonna do. Um, I know there's so much more to talk about, and we
Yeah.
can we can go as long as you want. But I know it's probably late where you're at, and
No, it's six. It's 6:48.
oh, it's six. It's only six. Oh
It's
man, we can
six.
go on for like 3 more hours. Then let's do it. Nah, no, 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 no. Because I'm pretty sure that you have, things that you want to do. But I do want to touch on this before we do go, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this one here. And you probably saw it. This whole 60 this frames per second thing. It's going around. It's going around right now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go again. Here we go again with the frames per second thing. And there's a
Oh
lot
my
of gamers
goodness.
out there. They're voicing their opinions. You know, this is the perfect opportunity to get on and talk about it and say, hey,
Yeah.
wait, man, this is a different generation, right?
Yes.
And there's no excuse. That's what's being voiced, especially
Yeah.
on social media. So I just wanted to get your thoughts around this whole frames per second thing around Gotham Knights, and
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting that that they came out right. I think the game comes out like not in a few more days or something. I don't know when I think it comes out some next week maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't remember.
I think 21st or 22nd, something like 22nd October or 23rd October, I believe so.
And
But it is this month.
yes,
If yeah, I think this month. It's
and and
this
and,
month.
and I was thinking, I was like, okay, so when you asked for it, right? You asked for
Yeah.
it when you put out a statement like that and say, hey, there's no performance mode. It's locked in at 30 frames per second, 4K, 30 frames, per second. And I just want to get your thoughts around that. Do you even care? If since it is 4K, 30 frames per second, do you even care? If it's not 60 frames per second.
Yeah. I don't even. I don't. Somebody will. I will say I don't care because I've not game on this 60 frame per second PC or whatever. I've not experienced 60 frame per second or something, 120 or whatever they are talking about. So absolutely not. But I have some points that I want to share. They attribute it to that the reason why they are going for the 30 is the co-op. The co-op is restricting them from maximizing the game to 60 frames per second. Now you ask this question: is it doesn't make sense in what they are saying? If you are somebody who doesn't know anything about gaming, doesn't know how gaming development will be, it means that this question that or this reason they've put out there, they are not able to understand. But if you are somebody who knows about gaming, know that co-op also restrict game developers from giving you from 30 to 60. Because I quite remember I saw a documentary with Gorilla Games when they were doing the first Horizon Zero Dawn. The initial concept was that they were doing co-op. If you see some of their, I saw some of their, early development
Right.
gameplay. It was a co-op, and they realized that if they do co-op, the graphics fidelity and the kind of they want to portray will be lost. So they went back and shifted to a single player game. So you kind of adjust yourself and keep asking yourself some questions. So sometimes co-op also restrict, and you ask yourself, how many games that gives you 4 to 3 co-op playing at the same time, having such fidelity as this one? How many games do you see in the market like that? All you see co-op games in are like, excuse me to say, no disrespect here, like, not the best of that kind of pushing that graphics, the fidelity or whatever it is. They do it in a different art style that pushes for them to have 60 frame or 120. So you kind of understand where they are coming from. Like, oh, it makes sense if they are going for co-op for you to be playing as it is. Because mind you, it's an open world game. It's not a linear co-op game. It's an open world where you can do whatever you want to do. And that sort of game demands so much. So when people are going and doing all sort of things without asking relevant questions and probing more about why it is so, it becomes unfair to some of the developers, making us to, you know, portray them as lazy developers, don't know what they are about, then and it's kind of disrespect. Sometimes you can throw in the questions and be uh, something like, oh, and then, oh, what sort of input will you be? So when you do that and say you are canceling the game because in 2022 we are playing 30 frames per second, because of that you are not going to purchase the game. You are being unfair. And these are the same people when you ask them questions. It's like you go and find them that they are irresponsible in their homes, but they have the audacity to come on Twitter to bash somebody for doing something that they love, for you to experience it without giving them the maximum respect. If you don't disagree, if you disagree, fine. But do it in a way that it will not kind of like put them in that vein of you holding them to it like, no, they don't know what they are doing. They are full of shit. And oh, sorry. They are full of it and they don't know what they are about.
You know
If
what? You
you
know what?
know about,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry,
Didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done there. That's I had to respond. I didn't have to, but I wanted to respond to that tweet.
yeah,
Someone canceling their purchase because
yeah, I saw it.
of that. So I put the little gremlin. I was like, wait a minute, and you make a very very good point because you have developers out there. They put their heart and souls in these games, right?
Yeah,
And unless you understand why they made the decision that they made, you have to ask questions first before going out
yes,
making a conscious decision to speak on. I mean, and I understand, right? I understand. You have a new generation of consoles. And then some people would say there shouldn't be a reason why you can't make the game 4K 60 at this day and age. However, but you have to ask questions, right? You have to ask
yeah,
questions and say, "Hey, why? Is there
right,
something?" And then when they go and give you an explanation of why, it's still not accepted.
yeah,
And then you have people that go on and just make comments. So I had to laugh at the situation. I'm like, okay, guys, because just like you said, if you was to ask these guys or gals or whoever that made these or Twitter bots or whoever made these comments, right? What do you know about developing a game? What do you know about developing a game? Have you ever developed a game in your life? I can
no
almost
idea,
guarantee you 99.99% of the time, I never developed a game.
no,
I never. So
yeah,
why would you come at a developer or a publisher or whoever that's making this game the way you're coming at them. I wouldn't, me personally, I would not ask for a refund of a game that I want to play. Now, I understand if they would have came out and said, "Hey, this game is going to be at 15 frames per second." That's not okay. Now you're pushing it.
That is fiction. They know
Like,
their standards.
wait a minute. Now
They
we
know
got to
their
ask
standards.
questions. We got to ask questions. Wait a
Yeah.
minute. That's not going to be a smooth ride. You know, we got high tech equipment that we like to, play our games on. There's no way. No, no, no,
And people
no.
don't seem to and people don't seem to understand that the box that we do have, which is the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and this 10, they are not yet utilized. They are still not yet utilized. The games that we are seeing used to be next gen. They were doing it for next gen. It's just that some developers decide to port it to this current generation. It's like this Gotham. It was revealed as a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One title. Earlier revealed, you when you go back, it was revealed as this before they got like no, because we want to put it and have a smooth sailing this thing. We're not gonna have a smooth version in this department. So let's put it in the PlayStation 5 and then Xbox Series X rather than making it look like. And the reason why they shifted that goalpost earlier is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk changed everything for every developer, not to try as much as possible to squeeze in when it is not supposed to. Trying to force yourself to find the audience and all of that when you know that the game you are developing might have some issues with this sport. So it kind of like brought the developers to reality that no, gamers don't like this thing. If you want to port it, just leave it the way it is. And they were like, okay, okay, okay. So better than taking this route than having a game where it will be full of bugs and gets our reputation damaged. People are forgotten. It's like these days, people are so emotional that when it comes to these things, they are more sentimental to show their displeasure than asking questions and drawing themselves back and asking questions, something that will reflect on what is being done. So it's all over the place because of how the information was done from from them. Because if they had made the information known earlier that 30 frames per second will be there as with the PlayStation 5 port and all everything. People would have adjusted their mind before the release. So coming out this close to the release and bringing in will also make people to panic from their end. Will make them panic and say, "Wow, so I've been craving for this game for a whole year, and now I'm gonna play it 30 frames per second." And some people have made the 30 frames per second as the worst version of gaming in the history of gaming, which is not even fair. Because back in the day, when you are playing your Mario, you don't even care whether you are playing in 30 frames per second or you just hold the control and just having fun. It all started, this I don't want to call the name, but everybody knows where it started from and how it has grown. With 5 seconds of frame drops, it has become an issue and it's all over the place. 5 seconds where you not even notice anything. 3 seconds you not notice anything. And people are making it look like sometimes you watch people's review and the influencers, and I'm asking myself, do these developers really know the kind of people they are giving their games to? Because if people who are into gaming review is not about the game, you are talking about a game, you should review on the story, the gameplay, the audio. How does the audio sound? you shouldn't be talking about uh, uh, frame rate dropping. So when you review a game and the frame rate is dropping, because now patches has become a norm. They drop a game, they patch it out. So what is the essence of you talking about frame rates when you are having an early code, not the full version of the game, and telling people who are you reviewing the game for that the games is dropping frame rates and is lagging and all of that, and you are influencing people. And when you influence people, people will be like, wow, no, I don't want to play this game. I'll wait and wait for it to come. I know it's all frustrating and all of that, but because we've put our mind to frame rates, so the least frame drops in the game, we are all mad. We are all mad because that is our mindset now. It is supposed to be 60 frames per second, smooth sailing, no drops. You press your button, it's supposed to respond in whatever seconds it's supposed to be responding. And that gives a lot of hardware to these game developers, and it's stressing these game developers because they have to be on time. And if people know, it's not like game development is not like movie. Movie is just easy. It's quite easier than game development. Game development, you have to know your time and calculate it, and it's very stressful. That you ask yourself, how can 200 people be working on a very huge game because of financial restraints? So they have to, restrict themselves from employing people who know their job well, because if they go for that person will charge them and they might overblown what they are going to get. And gaming, you don't even know how much you're going to get, because the moment you bring it out, you are dependent on the people who are playing it, who are reviewing it, to give you a good review. The moment you have a bad review, everybody just ignore it, and you have wasted so many years developing a game, having somebody so-called reviewing a game, and not critically looking at it, why this game is like what it is. So me, I don't see these kind of reviews as very important. If you have the game, you played and you enjoy it yourself, that's the end. And if game developers will learn from it and stop reviewing games and giving it out to anybody because of audience, it can also help them. But if they decide to give it out to these people, then they should be ready for the criticisms. If they are ready to give out their games out for such reviews, then they should be ready for the backlash. That's how I see it. Yeah.
As always, man, very, very insightful. Make a lot of
Thank
sense.
you. Thank you.
A lot
Thank
of
you.
sense
Thank you.
here on the subject, and
Yeah.
you know, and I'm just gonna give my quick thoughts, and then we're gonna wrap it up here.
All right. All right.
When it comes to what it is today, frames per second, and we talk about it a lot too. I just love the game, period. And
Mm.
I I
Sorry to cut you. Did you finish? Did you play Last of Us?
the
The Last of Us?
are you talking about the remake?
No, any one of them.
Yes, yes. The Last of Us.
Was it on 30 frame or 60 frames?
Um, I don't even remember. I don't remember as far as with the Last of Us. I know I played the first one and the last one. I mean the remaster version of it. I think it's 60 frames. The remaster version,
Oh, okay.
and part two I don't even remember at all. And that tailors to what I was gonna say here, because I don't really I can't really tell the difference, right? I really can't tell the difference. I'm not one of those subject matter experts who has a setup that sits down and say, hey, this game is running at 30 frames per second, but it drops down to 25, and then it goes back up to, you know, 60, and then everybody knows about Digital Foundry. Sometimes, you know,
You just mentioned.
I would navigate to their
I avoided
channel.
in that.
Uh, maybe I'm doing them a service here by giving them a shout out. Uh, but I sometimes I do stop by. Now, you know, because, you know, just to see what the fuss is about, right? I don't make my decision on purchasing video games based on frames per second. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, again, like I said, I like to play video games, and you make a great point. And that's exactly what I do. I purchase the video game. If it's something that I'm interested in, I'm going to purchase it. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to give my own opinion.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I used to be one of those ones. Like, okay, you know, IGN used to be. I'm gonna give them a shout out to. Used to be my first stop. Right, I would go to IGN and see what their reviews are, and would make a decision there. But that was back in, you know, my younger days. But now, you know, me thinking for myself, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore, because sometimes, you know, the reviews that come out, they don't make sense. I'm like, well, that's not what got from the game, right?
Yes.
And the game is amazing, you know, from start to finish. So
Yeah.
that from that point, I'm like, forget it. I'm not going off what other people reviews are, because you have your own. It's your review, right? If
Yeah.
you think the game sucks, okay, it sucks. But I'm gonna purchase the game, and I'm gonna give my own opinion, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in
Absolutely.
30 frames or 60 frames per second, because I don't know. Yes, I could sit and play a video game and see some pop-ins. I could tell, you know, if there's a frame drop, like, okay, yeah, I can see. But I'm not playing frame rates, right? I'm playing a
The game is
game
made
and I'm
to
enjoying it,
experience.
and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But
It's
I'm
it's
gonna say
it's,
this.
it's
I'm gonna say this because
yeah.
it is what it is. To each their own, right?
Yeah.
I respect everyone's opinion, but sometimes some opinions do not have merit. I don't think. I think some people respond out of ignorance, or some people just jump on the bandwagon. They see others,
Yeah.
you know, say, "Hey, well," or if somebody that has status with a blue check mark by their name in Twitter, they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, if this guy or girl knows what they're talking about," and then they jump on the
Yes.
bandwagon. I'm like, why? They're human just like you are, right? They play video games just like you play video games.
Yeah.
You make your own opinion if you want to purchase the game or not, because one keyword that you had said throughout this podcast here was influence. People can have influence on sales. People can have influence on the purchase decisions of others,
Yes.
right? And that's not the way it should be. To me, in my opinion, just, hey, the game looks good to me. It looks good to me. I'm going to purchase the game, and I'm going to play it. And then I will make my own decision on if the game
Yeah.
is good or not. I'm not going to sit here and try to squinch at the TV of like, oh, is it running at 60 frames per second? Is it running at 30 frames per second? I can't see it, PE. I just can't see it. But I'm going to sit here and play. The game is fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to play it through and
Yeah.
through, and then give my opinion on the game. So you make a good point there. And again, to each their own. So
Yeah.
we're gonna leave it there. This is
All right.
the first episode in this State of Gaming series that we're gonna have here, and hopefully we can have more people chime in on the conversation. And there's a lot of stuff out there to talk about, and the way the direction that gaming is going right now is very, very interesting. And these gaming companies, they are making their mark right now,
Yeah.
stating their claims,
It's, yes.
and
As you just stated, Yeah, in the boxing arena now.
Yes, yes, they like, yeah. As
Yeah,
stated before in the beginning, they are
yeah,
in the boxing ring right now, duking it out, and they're saying, "Hey, you know what I'm saying? You know, this is how it is. This is how it's gonna be." You know, your opponent is like, "Nah, player, it's our
yeah,
time to shine now. So I'm gonna throw a
yeah,
few hooks and throw a few uppercuts at you. So here we go. Let's get it. Let's get
yeah.
it." So it's gonna be interesting to see what's next, right? It's gonna
Yes,
be so we just gotta keep our ears and eyes glued. You know, social
yes.
media is gonna set the place on fire.
Yeah. I just want to, I just want to see the moment where if how it's going to be approved or
Well,
disapproved.
me, I just let them have it because you think about it. You think about it. You got Call of Duty, right? You
Yes,
got Diablo. I think Diablo was in that lineup. You
yeah,
already got the mobile kind of sold up with Candy Crush. People still
Candy
play Candy
Crush.
Crush. That's where your money is right there when it comes to mobile.
Yes,
Then you have a few other games that was in that lineup as well. I don't remember off the top of my head, but those, I mean, Sony has a huge catalog of exclusives.
yes, yes,
Microsoft does
yes.
it. So if they just let the deal go through, that's just me, right? Let give Microsoft the deal. You have an opportunity to make some more acquisitions yourself, right?
Yeah.
Just
And let me check as its way. And the CMA decide not to accept it, and the European regulators also decide not to accept it, and the Australians regulators also decide not to accept it, and they give or gives their reason for not accepting it, and Microsoft loses 3 billion to Activation Blizzard King for the deal not going through. So my point is, it changes the ball game now. So
it
right
does.
now, people are not seeing that if it doesn't go through, it sets a precedent that no one can go in and purchase anything. You see, so if Sony is going in to purchase something that Microsoft have seen that, hey, this is what they said, so we can also go in and chip in. And mind you, if that the standard has been blocked, that you cannot purchase any studio you want to purchase, it's always about time exclusive. Then Microsoft comes in and say, okay, Activision, 2K, we are having both games 10 years exclusive with these people. It's all about money, and Microsoft has money, and nobody can stop them from spending it. So, Grand Theft, we are taking exclusives for 5 years or 10 years. Call of Duty, 5 years, 10 years. We are giving them the whole money. We are putting it on our Game Pass. Game Pass is coming on Game Pass. If they take two or Rockstar spend 200 million to build, it's easy for Microsoft to give them 200 million to put it on Game Pass. And whilst it's on Game Pass for free, it's 70 to $80 on PlayStation. So which one do you decide? You decide, and oh, since it's on Game Pass, I'm going to try it, and if I like it, I'm going to purchase it. If I don't like it, at least I've played the game. That is the option. So people will go for the best option available.
There you go. There you
Hmm.
have it. And that is so true. You have the options, you know, to get it on and play it on Game Pass, or you
Yeah,
have the option to purchase it, right?
yeah,
So, and you know, and let's not exclude that, you know, if you do purchase it on Game Pass, you're locked in behind that subscription service with the game, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you happen to lose your Game Pass or decide to discontinue Game Pass, I put it that way, then you're not going to be able to play that game unless you have a subscription with Game Pass. But again, you do
But
have the option, but you do have the
if you purchase it on Microsoft Store,
right.
then
You do have the
it's-
option of the discount, right?
yeah,
And also, so it behoove you. Well, if the game is available at a discount while you have the subscription service, then it's a win-win situation because now you have Game Pass, right? You could play the game like, but I don't want to continue Game Pass. You can purchase it at the discount price, right? And then just get rid of Game Pass. So
Yes.
I wonder if gamers even know that, you know, and
No, I don't think most of them know.
exactly. So what Microsoft is doing
Yeah.
is good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's going to benefit everyone. But and another thing, if the deal does not go through, because I'm pretty sure there's investors right now on the edge of their seats. They're on the edge of their seats right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, dude, if this don't go through, the Microsoft stock is gonna go. You think Sony stock just dropped? I think
That's
Microsoft stock is gonna plummet. And I don't think it's gonna go too far down, but it's going to plummet. Investors are gonna be upset. It's gonna create the divide right now. Is where it is. But if that deal does not go through, you're going to see social media blow up, right? The division, I'm serious. The division is going to be the division is going to be so strong that it's just going to be like, hey, dude, the fanboys are going to go at it. It's going to be like a video game civil war, right? and social media, and it's just gonna be crazy, man. And so we just got to sit back and watch and see what happens. So thanks again, man. I really appreciate you coming through. Again, this is the first episode of mini. Just seven more episodes to come of the state of gaming, and and we just sit here and discuss that. We talk about the direction, where it's headed, and man, it's almost like the Game of Thrones. I'm not sure if you know if you watched that show.
Yeah. I did. Is it the old one or the new one?
Either one. Right now, yeah, we're still watching the new one. I think it's only like 2 episodes left, I believe. Well, actually, one episode comes on tonight, so definitely gonna watch it.
The new one, I'm not too. I'm stuck with the old one.
The old one, yes.
Yeah.
All right, my man. And if you're watching, again, if you would like to see more podcasts, anything about and everything about gaming, just make sure you tune in, man. Just subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell and all. And also, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, we will be posting the actual link in the chat, and just send us a request in the chat that you would like to be a part of the conversation, and we will let you in and voice your opinions on the state of gaming and where it's headed. And we respect everyone's opinion on the matter, and sometimes, hey, it may get heated, and that's okay. If it does get heated, that's okay, as
Yeah.
long as we respect each other throughout the
At
duration
least
of
that
the
shows that we have
podcast.
passionate people.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Yeah.
trust me, we understand that everybody's, not everybody, but when people do come in, they're very passionate about where they stand, whether it's Xbox, whether it's PlayStation, whether it's Nintendo, whether it's PC, or whether you just like them all, right? You just like them all,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
but we would love to hear your thoughts and opinions around the state of gaming. So this has been the Gaming and Reactions live podcast.
Yes.
What you see here on the screen is the team, myself, and Patrick and Enigma.
Yeah.
We both are will be running the show here, and hopefully we can have more podcasts here in the near future. So keep your eyes and ears glued. Hey, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and all, so that you know when we go live. And also on the channel, we do give we want to start doing giveaways. Yeah, I definitely want to try to do giveaways during the podcast. And also we do have a gaming channel as well, where we do some live gameplays, and we post that out on Twitter as well. And we do giveaways out on Twitter. So we do have a December giveaway coming up, early December giveaway. We're giving away a BFG Pro controller for the PS4, PS5, and PC. And once we hit, I think once we hit 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers, we're gonna give away a Woodger set. It's one of those vests that you put on where you can, experience, some haptic feedback in gaming, and not just gaming, movies and music, etc. So I think it's pretty nice, and we appreciate everybody coming through. If you're watching, and hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. And PE, you have any last minutes?
Oh, I'm really honored to be in this podcast, and I absolutely grateful and honored as well to have your acquaintance to have this podcast going, because it isn't easy to be given this kind of platform, because where I'm from, coming into such community is very difficult. So having you giving me that floor is an absolute pleasure. And I hope that people who find this podcast interesting can also remind themselves that we have a family here, and we all come together because of gaming. And so whoever is far away from anywhere can join in without any fear, because we are not above anybody here. We are a family full of love for gaming and everything as a community. So everybody here can chip in and have a discussion with us. So, P, thank you very much for having me.
Awesome, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on, man. And
Yeah.
and I definitely look forward to more. So with that being said, we are going to check out here.
Yeah.
Hey, hey,
Peace.
stay gaming, man. Hey, stay
Yes.
blessed, stay safe,
Yes.
and I will see you in the next podcast. All right,
Bless.
take care, man.
All right. Thank you.